Well, hello, General Hospital Daily Recap fans. Today's daily recap is for, goodness, what day is this? Wednesday, October the 22nd, 2025. Well, everybody, Carly goes to see Valentine as Barbara Saunders, his attorney, looking into possibly getting him an early release. He looks at her, he says, okay, you've come a long way and you've come with an alias and a disguise. He says, Jack could have easily gotten you in here to see me. Hmm, but you didn't go that route. Does Jack know you're here? She's like, no. He goes, okay, all right. So that means something is up. He says, I don't think it's a lover's quarrel. So that means he must have done something to one of your kids. What did he do? Right? So Carly looked at Valentine and she said, what would you do if Jack recruited your daughter into the WSB? And Valentine said he'd be 6 feet under. Now, Jack, he goes, Jocelyn is a WSB agent. When did this happen? Carly says, far as I could tell, about 8 months ago. And so he says, he goes, then he obviously has some kind of use for her. And Jocelyn says, but what I don't understand is how he recruited her. And and Valentine says, well, there are two kinds of recruits: those who willingly want to be a WSB agent, or those who are led to believe that kind of is their only option. He goes, now, there are people, he goes, sometimes people are targeted because of maybe a vulnerability. Could be something traumatic happened in their life. And she goes, her boyfriend Dex was killed. He goes, okay. He says, and then the test comes. Because look, let's remember, Valentine was head of the WSB. He knows the tactics he used or would use, right? He says, okay, now the test would be perhaps pointing them in a direction. What happened around that time? So she goes, well, Cyrus Renault was around that time. And I don't know, everybody. Does everybody know Cyrus killed Dex Heller? Possibly, I think, because he goes, but he would have, she goes, but Cyrus disappeared. He goes, okay. Jack would have pointed her in the direction of Cyrus to see what she would do. He goes, my guess is she found him. And Carly said, wait, you think my daughter killed Cyrus Renault? And so Valentine says, doesn't have to necessarily, she doesn't have to necessarily have pulled the trigger, but she would have had a need for vengeance. And Jack Brennan would see just how far she would go. He says, and Jack could have ultimately been the one to pull the trigger. with her there. And so Carly says, okay, making her culpable to this crime. And he says, but my guess is she probably did the job herself, right? And Carly is just like, oh my God. He says, now, my question to you is this: what are you doing here? And what do you want with me? And so she says, how would you and I like to work together to bring Jack Brennan down? Now, she said that before Valentine led her down the scenario of Jocelyn killing Cyrus, right? Because he says, before I agree to help you or work with you, why, what happened? So that's when they kind of came up with that. And so she looked at him and she says, now are you going to help me or not? What do I do? She goes, because I'm going to bring Jack Brennan down. He goes, well, for one, that's not going to be easy to do. He says, but she goes, well, what do I need to do? How do I do it? So Valentine said, you are the only one who could possibly bring down Jack Brennan. And she says, why me? He said, because you're Jack's weakness. And Carly looked at Valentine. He says, all you have to do is go back and convince Jack that you are madly in love with him. He says, Jack will do anything for you. So Carly looked at Valentine like, yeah, I definitely could do that. Because Carly is his Achilles heel. And that's one thing Colette used to complain about, that you're breaking the rule. You are falling for this woman. And he even tells Carly, I've never felt this way before. Are you breaking up with me? Yeah, okay. Now I'm interested to see what their plan is to bring Jack down. And I would love to see Valentine released. Okay, I would love to see that because guess what? Now little Lulu would be in a pickle. Because Valentine released, that means Charlotte is like, peace out, mommy. I love you, but I'm going to be with my dad and I'll come visit. That's what Charlotte will be. I will come visit. So, anyway, that's going to be good. To me, that will probably, by the time we wrap the takedown of Jack Brennan up, that's not going to be for next month's sweeps. To me, that's going to run into the February sweeps of next year. That'll be the ramp up because it would be too fast for anything to happen within these next 4 weeks where Jack Brennan is concerned as far as a takedown. That's too soon. So I'm looking at the web Carly's gonna weave for Jack, and that's going to be so sweet. It truly is. Now, before I go any further, this Saturday, everybody, YouTube live stream, Saturday the 25th, 5 p.m. Pacific time, which is 6 p.m. Mountain time, which is 7 p.m. Central time, which is 8 p.m. Eastern time. Be there or be square. I can't wait to talk to all of you. We've got so much to talk about this Saturday. We might run a little over on Saturday with the different topics. So, what I want you to do, kind of jot down. You do some jotting. Who should we talk about? Jot down, we need to talk about this, talk about that. Get 4 points. Ooh, 4. 4 points that you want to bring up or we should talk about. And let's knock them out, y'all. Okay, so now let's go on back to the rest of GH. Now, Tracy. Tracy decides, you know what, I don't have to keep Valentine and Carly's picture up. Tracy decides she's going to go to Lulu's little place, little three-bedroom house in the woods, right? And she's on Lulu's couch. Rocco and Charlotte come down the stairs being teenagers. Charlotte, I got your phone. Well, throw it down to me. No. So he comes down the stairs. He goes, because if I throw it, you'll miss, it'll drop, the case will break, and it'll be all my fault. And all of a sudden, Tracy gets up on the, hey, be quiet. And they look at Lulu comes running out. Listen, we have a guest for a while. Tracy is here. You guys need to keep it down. And Charlotte's like, why is she here on our couch? And I hope I don't have to share a bathroom with her. And Tracy says, and I don't want to have to share a bathroom. I'm not used to sharing a bathroom with anybody. Charlotte's like, exactly. All those 19 bathrooms, or 99 bathrooms you have at that estate. So then she goes, Lulu says, well, she got kicked out last night. And Charlotte says, ooh, okay. The Rocco's like, Charlotte. So anyway, Rocco says, I need your help with my homework. He takes her out on the patio, on the porch, just to get her away from Tracy. Just to, let's say, hey, give her a break, right? She's not that bad. Because, Rocco lives with her half the time. So Lulu said, look, listen, Tracy, we've got to go over some ground rules. She goes, what? She goes, understand, you chose to come here to my small place. I have teenagers. Tracy, teenagers are loud. She goes, I live with Rocco half the time. I know him. She says, but Tracy, Rocco may stay or have, you may have lived at the estate, but not in such close quarters. And so she goes, but you're welcome here. Just understand that these are my children and this is their home. And she goes, but wouldn't you be more comfortable in a hotel? And Tracy goes, no, I want to be here. And I thought, why would she want to be here? And then it hit me. She wants to be around family. She just can't say it. She considers Lulu still her stepdaughter, family to her. And since she got kicked out of the house, she came to the next place her family has, or house her family's at, which is right there. And I said, okay, I could see it, but yes and no. If I've got Tracy Quartermain money, everybody, I'm not sleeping on nobody's couch. And Tracy stood up in her back. She's like, oh, see, no, right there. That's not happening. And as Rocco and Charlotte are on the porch, they hear this big old moving truck. And they look, and Rocco says, what's that big old truck doing in the driveway? So they come out, they come into the house, each carrying a box, saying, Tracy, where do you want these? And Lulu says, wait, what? So Lulu gets up and looks in her driveway. She said, Tracy, what is this huge moving truck doing in my driveway? And Tracy just looks at her. Now, that right there would be a no-go. Tracy also has enough money to rent a storage space large enough to hold all those belongings securely. And it would be no, 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 no. Tracy, you need to get up, redirect that truck to whatever storage facility and rent however many units you need to store all this stuff because it won't fit in my house. It just won't, right? So that was kind of funny to me because let's face it, they just won't talk about it again, realistically. Now, we have Brooklyn. took Ronnie to Bobby's, and Ronnie ordered a, hangover concoction. Isn't a Bloody Mary-ish or something she, you know, knows that cures a Mickey. And they end up telling Gio the story, and he goes, Tracy did that? He goes, man, I know Tracy is a lot, but I didn't think she would do that. And you know what, everybody? I don't think Tracy did. Just by the way she was talking to Lulu, Lulu was like, come on, Tracy. You know you couldn't stand her. You know you want to prove her wrong. You would do something like, she goes, I did not. And just the way she's going to drug her, you know? And so I thought, she goes, just like I didn't, that's twice I've been accused of drugging somebody and I did not, right? And I thought, you know what? I don't think she did. I just don't, right? Martin did, because he absolutely did not belong there. He didn't belong at that house no more than the man on the moon, okay? And somebody in Comment Corner, and I didn't notice that in a scene, said it showed the coffee cup on the tray there, Ronnie's cup, and something was like the tea kind of splashed up a bit. Something was dropped into it. I didn't notice that. So that's Martin. But that was dangerous, Martin. If that was Martin. Anyway, you know, anyway. So anyway, Gio, he pretty much doesn't say anything to Brooklyn. He's talking to Ronnie, but he wasn't snubbing Brooklyn or anything, right? And Emma showed up, and so he goes, "Excuse me," and he goes over to speak to his Emma. Now, Emma and Jocelyn, Jocelyn goes, Emma, look, I just need to warn you again. Jocelyn needs to shut up about to Emma about Dalton. She knows Emma's hard-headed and Emma can't stand her. You don't know what you're getting into. It is deeper than you think. She goes, deeper how? Tell me. What makes you think it's deeper? And Jocelyn knows she can't say. So it's like, leave it alone, Jocelyn. So Jocelyn got a phone call, and it was, of course, from Jack Brennan. And she looks at Emma. She goes, you know what? Don't say I didn't warn you. And she just walks off. But Emma is in deeper, but Emma's hard-headed. And she tells Gio, you know what, Gio? Jocelyn brought up Dalton again, but you and I have put him on the back burner, and we need to step it up a notch now. My grandmother is so distracted, she won't even notice anything. So they're going to get into some trouble, probably just in enough time for this November sweeps. Um, Now, Jack Brennan calls Nathan in, and he's questioning him. And he tells Nathan, he goes, you know what's interesting? I have your brain scans from GH. And Nathan looked at him and said, isn't that a HIPAA violation? And Jack looked at Nathan and said, with a WSB, and you're somebody who has been declared dead for 7 years. Not to mention you're the son of Cesar uh, Faison and Liesl Obrecht. So, no, we're well within our authority. And he goes, what's interesting is your scans are showing no scars on the brain, no swelling of the brain, not a brain injury, nothing to support this convenient memory loss from the time you were shot to the time you were, you know, pulled from the car accident. That's convenient. Now, I want to know who you were working with. Is it your father? And if it wasn't your father, who is it? And he said, my father is dead and I don't remember. And he says, so you could come up with all the speculations, conclusions you want, but I can't help you. And Nathan turns and he walks out. Boom. Right? And Jack is just looking like, nah, there's something more to this, which is true, 100%. Now, Anna called in Britt, and Britt was going into Anna's office. Elizabeth was on the phone saying, you're late for your shift. She goes, I know I'm late for my shift. And I'm going to be even later because I'm being detained here. She should have said, Anna called me into her office, but she didn't, right? So she lets Anna know, what is this about? I am scheduled to work and I could lose my job. So Anna says, well, I need some questions answered. She goes, what exactly were you doing at the Five Poppies? And Britt's saying, trying to stonewall her, what? And so finally Britt says, I worked in the lab there. We were developing some kind of, because it's a spa, some kind of skin treatment or whatever. And Anna says, no, because whoever was trying to kill you would not blow up an entire lab and part of the Five Poppies with it if it was just a skincare formula. No. Now, what I want to know is, who is it? And Britt flashed back to her medication, saying, don't forget to take your medication every day, that note, and then the C was there. Anna says, is your father, Cesar, behind this? And Britt looked at her and said, my father is dead. And I am sick and tired of his name being linked to me when he's a dead man. And so Anna says, well, you were supposed to be dead too. Speaking of which, she hands her the file, but she actually handed her the file before they started talking. Britt says, what is this? She goes, oh, this is the bill for all the man hours and resources we put out on your death, investigating your death. And for one, I'm thinking, you didn't put out too much, Anna, because you felt Jocelyn corroborated the story that Heather did it. So, you didn't have to figure out who did it. Well, actually, they didn't know the hook killer was Heather at the time, but the hook killer did it. Your behind just couldn't solve that case forever. That's not on Brit, right? So anyway, Britt says, I can't afford to pay this. And that's when she goes, well, then you give me information. I want to know, who were you working for? So Britt says, Pascal, whatever his last name was. And I looked at her. She goes, he's a middleman. And you know that. Who was Pascal answering to? Britt says, I don't know. I only dealt with Pascal. She goes, look, you're alive because of me. And Anna said, Britt says, what? You're alive because of me. I sent Jason out to the Five Poppies because once I told him the WSB was interested in it, Jason felt you could be uh, held against your will, coerced against your will. And I convinced him to go. And Britt looked at her. She goes, so there should be some cooperation here. And Britt pretty much stonewalled her. Said, look, I'm going to tell you something. I don't know. My father is dead. And she goes, but if your father is dead, then someone else is in charge. And Anna said, who is it, Britt? Oh my God. If it's not your father, who is it? And Britt's just looking at her. And I'm thinking, oh, that C could be Cassadine. Just saying, right? So Britt says, you know what? I'm not paying that bill. You could burn it, you could shred it, you could send the bill to me, which won't get paid. But either way, I have to go and see if I still have a job. And Britt walks right on out of Anna's office. Now, once she gets out of Anna's office, she kind of looks like, because Anna said, Britt, you're thinking by staying quiet that's going to keep you safe, but it's not because they tried to kill you one time. Doesn't mean they're not going to come back to finish the job, right? And Britt is just looking like, uh-oh, right? What's going on here? Yeah, there's a lot going on, Britt. So now let's see. I got that. Yesterday, everybody. I'm gonna go switch gears to yesterday. I read this in Comment Corner. I forgot to talk about Drew and Alexis. That was a big conversation. And I think I know why I forgot. I just don't like talking about Cameron Matheson as Drew. Right? And I had just read one of the soap news magazines or whatever soap updates, the like soap opera digest, something like that. And they interview, different folks. They interview Cameron Matheson on the red carpet. And of course, he had to bend their ear talking about his character on. Now, he wasn't nominated, but my character on Drew, thanks to General Hospital and the writing, I am so pleased with they allow me, the creative leeway or creative control I have over the direction of the character. And, it was decided we were going to let Drew go down this dark path and be a villain. He goes, and it's so fun exploring a villain because Drew is one of the most talked about characters on General Hospital. This is coming out this man's mouth. People love to hate villains. When I read that, I just shook my head and I thought, I never thought of Drew as a villain. I just thought of him as another word for a donkey, a son of a gun, right? Arrogant, egotistical, villain? No. Um, a mental abuser of kids, even teenagers. I just thought of Drew as a absolutely deplorable human being. That's what I thought of Drew. And to hear Cameron boast about how much fun he's having this, just playing this because this is what's being talked about. I thought, see, this is why I can't stand Drew. Just even Cameron. I'm sorry, y'all, I just can't. Right? How Frank Valente, or however you pronounce his name, just allows me such creative control over that. Oh, please. So I think when I started doing the recap, I just blocked out Drew because I didn't want to talk about it. He had the nerve to go to Alexis's house. And another thing, Drew was shot twice in the back. twice. And you notice the son of a isn't even in a wheelchair. Sonny got shot once in the back in a wheelchair for 8 months. Epiphany had to do the rehabilitation on Sonny. Drew was point blank, bam, person standing over him. We see the shadow, right? Shot him again. And the other bullet was within the room that close. The other, Curtis, shot in the back last year, or maybe the year before, summer before. Curtis was in a wheelchair for a year. Easy, easier. But Cameron Matheson could say, no, no, no. Drew, Superman. We're not going to put Drew in a wheelchair. You know, we just go have him on crutches that he's pretty much running. The only time you saw him in a wheelchair when he left the hospital against medical advice, trying to wheel himself into the chapel. After that, you've never seen him in a wheelchair again. Okay. Right. Every other prominent male on the show have to spend months in a wheelchair, like a normal human being that's been shot twice in the back, one bullet that was lodged very close to his spine. But nah, Cameron says, not me. I wouldn't look good in a wheelchair. The villain that I felt General Hospital had, Heather was a villain. Ryan Chamberlain was a villain. Victor Cassadine was a villain. Helena Cassadine, villain. Sidwell, oh, he's the villain on the show now. Absolute villain is Sidwell. And we've had some other villains. But Drew Hayne, he doesn't rate or reach the villain status at all. He tells Alexis that Willow, he just opens Alexis's door and walks in. Alexis was on the phone and she heard her door open. She turned around and she goes, oh no, don't you knock? And he goes, your door was open. It was unlocked. She goes, that does not mean come in. He tells her Willow needs an attorney and it's going to be you. And Alexis is like, no, it is not going to be me. Willow needing an attorney has nothing to do with me. There is absolutely no way I would do anything for you. And Willow, he ends up saying, oh, I've got something you can't refuse. And she looked at him and he said, you want to see Scout, don't you? I'll lift the restraining order. And Alexis looked at him and said, you are the most deplorable, despicable human being. You would barter your child. If it suits your needs. She says, that is not having Scout's best interests at heart. He said, you want to see her? He goes, and she goes, no, I'm not going to do it. And she turned and he looked at her. He said, what? You're going to turn down an opportunity to spend some time with your granddaughter, all because you don't like me? He says, what would Sam think? And Alexis turned around and said, how dare you say, what would Sam think? You have kept Scout from her entire family all this time, not caring about what Sam would think. He goes, yeah, well, I'm offering you an opportunity now. Just you. And she says, you know what? I'd do it. But you got to lift the restraining order on Molly, Christina, Rocco, and Danny. No, 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 no. Never Danny. Never him. Alexis says, because not that juvenile delinquent. She says, Danny is not a juvenile delinquent. Absolutely not. And Danny is Scout's brother. You talk about what Sam would do. She would hate the fact that you're keeping her two kids apart. He says, no, no, not Danny. She goes, because of who? He goes, because of who his father is. She said, who Danny's father is has nothing to do with Danny needing to be able to see his sister. And Drew said, I don't care about Danny. He ain't my kid. And Alexis just shook her head. But she's going to do it. First, I said, no. Why would you do that, Alexis? But then I thought about it when I thought about Scout, who has been barred from her family. I could see as a grandmother, I would do it. But you want to know what else I would do? I would make sure Scout and Danny were together. And I would tell Scout, let me tell you something, honey. I'm never going to tell you to lie to your daddy. Then I'd say, in any other situation than this. Because, see, in this situation, your father is still barring your brother Danny, who loves you, from seeing you because he hates Danny's dad. But see, me, Scout Honey, as your grandmother, I know you need to see your brother, and I know your brother needs to see you. So I'm going to make sure that you guys get to spend some time together here at my house. Make sure of that. But you cannot, Scout, and I need you to understand, you can never tell your father. And you want to know what Scout would do? Okay. She'd be okay. But I would definitely let her see him. Absolutely 100%. Restraining order, be doggone. So anyway, we're gonna see how that goes. Alexis is gonna be Willow's attorney. And let's see. That was what happened yesterday. I forgot to talk about it because I just didn't even want Drew to come into my speech. So let's see. I talked about Anna and Britt, Carly, Valentine, the whole 9 yards. I think I've covered it all, everybody. I covered everything that happened today. So I'm not going to do comment corner going into the live stream, but keep the comments a flowing on the voice line and in comment corner on YouTube so we can get those comments going. And remember, everybody, write down the 4 topics that you want to talk about so we could get, go from one to the other, one to the other. I'll be back tomorrow with another daily recap of General. Oh, wait, forgot this. Lois showed up at Sunny's and he said, look, I can't intervene with you in Brooklyn. No, I wouldn't ask you to. But yet she asked him to intervene with her and Gio. She goes, Sonny, I got to talk to him. She goes, because he's blaming Brooke Lynn for something I did. I need him to know it is not her fault. All this anger he's got towards her, keep it towards me. I mean, and I could appreciate that. I could definitely appreciate that. So Sonny calls him and said, after work, I need you to come over. Come home right away. And he says, okay. Why? Oh, because Lois is here. She wants to talk to you. I'm glad Sonny didn't lie to him. Gio could even say, you know what, Sonny, I respect and care, love you, but no, I won't be home. That's what Gio could say. But at least Lois was standing right there and she knows Sonny made the call. But Gio also knows Sonny didn't lie to him and trick him. And I'm happy Sonny did it that way. I'm really happy Sonny did it that way, everybody. So I'll be back tomorrow with another daily recap of General Hospital.